Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Haven't done a vlog in a little bit, and just the way time goes, and hopefully we can get back on track here. I got a call or an email checking in on an online client, and going to talk a little bit about some of the follies in our programming, at least in understanding what we're trying to accomplish. And it was pretty cool to see how something not so good got blown up for about a week, and how that helped him understand what we were trying to accomplish, and probably had him a little bit more connected to what we were trying to accomplish with the program. So in New York City, lots of folks are still not really leaving their house, their apartment. Lots of gyms just aren't available anymore. The ones that are the most available are some big box gyms with very low capacities, and it's just not what people want to do. So a lot of opportunities for online stuff, doing things at the house. This particular individual, fairly low training age, low fitness, and not a lot of equipment at the house. So we felt that it would be very useful to start to engage with what he had. Let's take advantage of some of the things, like we don't have a lot of equipment, don't have a lot of weights, don't have a lot of options, and a low training age. And we have a good dose of what I often call 2020. I know it more in describing it as oxidative programming, where some other folks have called it statodynamic. I've seen that in some older books, but I think it also confuses with some of the things we hear out of Westside, static overcoming dynamic and dynamic overcoming static. So call it oxidative. I call it 2020, and what that means is 2020 talks about how long you will have the eccentric phase, how long will there be a pause or a stop at the bottom, how long is the concentric phase, and then how long do you hold at the top. So that's 2020, where we think that there is good opportunity to improve both fitness and hypertrophy at the same time. I think those two things will set this client up for some more aggressive phases, even if it's just what he has available at the house. Now, we're also going to see these long eccentrics phases have very, very high value for rehab and reconditioning programs from tendinopathy. We've seen that. We have seen long eccentric bouts have a very, very significant neuromuscular effect for maximal efforts, where basically, because you are able to hyperload the eccentric, let's say you can bench 3 wheels, you could put probably, for a lot of folks, depending on your technique, maybe 4.5, 5 wheels on the bar. Eccentric, as long as it takes for that bar, provided you're keeping tension the whole time, and then 2 guys just peel it off of you. If you can run in a 3 to 4 week phase in that a couple times a year, this is pretty much free, and you'll be able to bump all of your big lifts that way. So there's this very, very significant opportunity for value with eccentric. But what we're looking at here is 2020. Is it 3030? Is it whatever? What we're saying is 2 second eccentric, 0 pause, and then 2 second concentric, and then you're not ever going to finish and lock out your compound lift. You're never going to lock out your bench press. You're never going to fully stand up in your squat. And part of the reason we are looking to maintain maximal tension and create as much edema as we can in the training muscle tissues. Now, why are we doing? Well, also something else to consider is that we should only be using 20 to 50% of your maximal loads. So now we're taking advantage of this online client not having a lot of weight to begin with. But why would we do this in the first place? You are going to be training very, very slowly. You are going to be training with low loads. Well, first of all, athletic development isn't the only thing that someone can train for. And using some of these other methods can certainly have value for the athlete or the general population. But if I told you that there was a way to increase muscle mass and if not directly increase your health and fitness, set yourself up to better protocols, I think this oxidative training 2020 is a tremendous opportunity to do that. We already know that longer eccentrics have value in other phases, whether it's the tendon, whether it's that neuromuscular effect where you're taking the emergency brake off of a big lift that hopefully translates to another lift. But also in bodybuilding, when we see these monsters, when I've been in Gold's Gym, I think I saw, and outside of Mike O'Hearn, I think I might have seen one dude bench 3 wheels. And the only time I ever saw someone squat 4 wheels was Mike O'Hearn over in the rigs on the other side of the gym. My friend Ben Pekulski, MI40 in Tampa, where I trained last year. This year, obviously, we're not getting out so much in Tampa. Every monster that you see in his gym, including him, is got very, very long eccentric phases. And now there you're going to see some pretty strong dudes. You didn't see a lot of strong dudes at Gold. My point is that hypertrophy happens with eccentrics. Hypertrophy happens with time under tension. And it's that same hypertrophy that can lead to some indirect fitness goals. Let me show you what we're talking about here. I'm going to draw a muscle on the board behind me, and I'm going to explain what happens when you train really, really slow, very, very slow tempo, 0 rest at the top and bottom of the lift, and we're going to use very, very light loads to bias the adaptation that we're trying to accomplish. Okay, so we're just going to draw the general, kind of big bipinnate muscle here. It's a big looking leaf, so we have tendon here and tendon here. All right, now we know that all muscles have different fiber types. When we think of the entire muscle, no muscle is one fiber type. It's not type 1 only, and it's not type 2 only. There is a significant bias towards one or the other for certain muscles, but muscles themselves aren't type 1 or type 2. It's the fibers within the muscle that's type 1. So we're going to use red here, and we're going to kind of look at those as our type 1s, and then we're going to look at blue, and blue is going to be our type 2s, okay? And the difference is obviously when we use that muscle to do something very, very fast and very, very aggressive and very, very heavy, we're going to bias towards the blues. And when you do something slow or for a very, very long period of time, you'll bias towards the reds. Now, I kind of made these even just for the purposes of what we want to look at. But certain muscles don't have an even distribution of these different fiber types. Now, when you train 2020, you train with long eccentrics, we know muscles get bigger and we think we have this value towards fitness, which I'll explain. But what happens is that we can bias our type 1 fibers to hypertrophy. And that in itself, when you train in this very, very slow pace, very, very lightweight, that's what happens. That's why muscles get bigger, because we're having significant hypertrophy, but it's biased, not only, but it's biased towards the type 1 fibers. Now, what's the value when it goes back to this online client? The value is that the type 1 fibers, which we know are used for longer time and longer terms of activity, they have more mitochondria. When you have more mitochondria of any type of muscle tissue, then you will have an opportunity to increase work capacity. So when, let's say you're throwing hands and you're punching as hard and as aggressively as you can for a 30-second bounce, you know you've got a 3 to 4 minute rest. So when you're throwing hard, you think, well, that's a type 2 activity. But again, activities aren't type 2. Muscle fibers are type 2. So you're also using type 1. So if you just show up to the dance, even if they're sitting all the way in the back, those extra mitochondria are going to allow you to have increased work capacity by the utilization of oxygen. You can extend how long and how hard you're throwing those hands. So even if your end goal is something athletic, and the protocols for general fitness are more high intensity, high speed high effort to show up to that dance with larger type 1 fibers, you'll be able to increase how many quality repetitions, how many quality sets, how many quality weeks, how many quality cycles you'll get out of that muscle tissue. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish. That's that indirect fitness impact. Now, there certainly is a consideration here of train slow, be slow. And there's going to be times where this is not an ideal protocol. But remember, if it's general population, doesn't matter how high they jump, doesn't matter how fast they run, that is certainly a good goal, and a lot of people can get very, very fit and achieve their goals with that. But they can also do it with other ways also. And now, again, we're talking about an online client that doesn't have a lot of load, external load, doesn't have access to a gym. So we're trying to fit what works for that person in a very interesting environment. So it's also very realistic to run an 8-week program of primarily 2020 oxidative training, and all of a sudden their vertical jump increases. Well, I don't think that it helped increase his or her vertical jump. I think they always had a 36-inch vertical jump, but because they were so under-recovered, running 8 weeks of primarily fitness training instead of explosive efforts was really what the body needed. Dynamic, active recovery for 8 weeks, and all of a sudden it allowed them to express who they were while not losing anything, because you're still putting in some effort. Now, 2020 is significantly demanding. You're usually going to yell towards rep 7 or rep 8. I think the protocol they'd probably try and start with is closer to that 30-25% range. 4 sets of 10, take a minute in between, try to answer the bell. If you can answer the bell every time, the next effort would be a little bit heavier. Since you're in such low loads, a very linear progression can be the answer. And if that's not what floats your boat, just taking an extra 2 or 3 seconds, which might seem like a lot, because it is, during your training on the eccentric phase, I think can add something of value to what you're already doing in a more traditional concurrent mixed method model. The goal of selectively trying to create hypertrophy in type 1 fibers is to show up to the next dance with a whole lot more mitochondria. The muscle gets bigger, the organelles have to fill that tissue, and by nature, by DNA, those type 1 fibers have a lot more mitochondria. That's what we're trying to accomplish with this online client. And we also know tendon health, we also know neuromuscular impact for phases down the road. Lots of really, really good things, and you can get jacked. So that's really what we're trying to accomplish with this individual, and there's a lot more. Sometimes it's very frustrating when folks say, "Oh, you don't need to worry about the science." Anybody who says mitochondria, well, look, you can be the person that people want to be around and actually still know a little bit about these things as well, so you can make the best choices instead of just running people into the ground and only talking about the successes instead of the ones that kind of slip through the cracks. I think we can help manage those folks that are slipping through the cracks with some changes in the protocols that maybe don't blow up the entire group training or small group model, but can deliver something unique for them that maybe someone else may not require. So if online training is of interest, it's very exciting, the different things that we're trying to accomplish. CharlieWeingroff.com, check that out, and hopefully we'll see you soon.